inaugural hour is here. Before we get started, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to every single person in this room. I know the countless hours that both staff and counselors put in preparing for this meeting, the hours of reading the thousands of pages. I've been there, done that, I understand. It's a labor of love for our profession. I want you to all know that you're appreciated by me, by the officers, by our profession, by the public. And also know that you're out of your office. When you're out of your office, you know, things pile up. When you go back, you've got to deal with it. But thank you. And staff, I know that you are, this week, you're away from your families. You spend hours at night getting ready for the next day to make all of us do our job better. And I just want to know you're also appreciated. And we do thank you. So I need to remind everyone that we are live streaming our meeting this morning. And I need to remind each of you of the conflicts of interest. So if members of the committee, this council, are hereby advised of your duty under the State Government Ethics Act to avoid conflicts of interest in the appearance of conflict, and you're instructed to refrain from participating in any matter coming before the council with respect to which you have a conflict or appearance of conflict. I also need to remind everyone of the State Ethics Commission statement or acknowledgement as follows. The State Ethics Commission has identified a potential conflict of interest for lawyer members of the State Bar Council. Because service on the council involves regulation of the legal profession of which you are members, we have a potential conflict of interest. The conflict must be recorded in the minutes of this body, and it is my duty to remind all lawyer members of the council of this potential conflict. In addition, the minutes for this meeting will include recent correspondence from the Commission stating that in evaluations of statements of economic interest filed by the counselors listed on an attachment to this agenda, no actual conflict of interest was found. At this time, I would recognize our esteemed Vice President, Matt Smith, for invocation. Wait, before we do that, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
We lost a member of the bar by the name of Patrick White. And it was, his life was cut short. It was a senseless act. He was doing what we do every single day. We get up, we go to work, we represent our clients. And I just feel we need to have a moment of silence to remember Patrick. You may not have known him personally, but he was one of us. I also would like for you to pray for peace and comfort for his wife Molly and his two children Zeke and Phoebe. So if we could for just a moment, let's have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam President. And along those same lines, many of you know Scott Hart, who's the counselor from Greenville. Scott lost his mother this week. She came in on Monday or Tuesday, I believe it was, and I believe she passed away yesterday morning. So please keep Scott and his family in prayer. Now let us pray. Father, we come together at the beginning of a new year, greeting new faces and renewing old friendships. We thank you for this day and the blessings of every day. We are thankful for your wisdom and guidance that has been with us throughout our deliberations this week as we seek to do our duty to the public and the profession. As we look ahead to the opportunities and challenges that lay before us, let us be reminded of the awesome power of prayer which has come to the nation's attention over the past few weeks. To borrow from Paul's letter to the Philippians, don't worry about anything, instead pray about everything. Let us not forget that call. We ask for your continued guidance as our work concludes this day, and we ask for protection as we have safe travels home. The power and the glory are yours now and forever. Amen.
Amen. So we are extremely blessed as a council to have some new members. As I call your name, if you would please stand, I would appreciate it. Maybe just stand until everybody has been called so we can recognize you. John Leidy, who is from District 1. Nancy Grace, District 10. Wade Harrison, District 17. Jason Rainey, District 22. He had to actually go back to work. He got called. Now, that work thing kind of gets in the way sometimes. So he has an excused absence. Bill Rogers, District 25. Craig Lynch, District 26. Fred DeVore, District 26. And Jay Vanoy, District 34. We had a great orientation with these guys. I've been checking on y'all, see how you're doing. And my report is that you guys have jumped right in, rolled your sleeves up, you got into work, and you fit in great. And thank you so much for being here and for serving, and we're happy to have you. We have a few, I always hate to say special guests, everybody's special. But we have some guests that we would like to recognize, and of course we all know that Chief Justice Newby's very special, so welcome. We have Clayton Morgan, who's the North Carolina Bar Association President, who will be addressing us in a few minutes. Clayton, you here? All right, here. Jimbo Perry, Chief Justice Commission on Professionalism. He's our co-director, and we're happy you're here with us, Jimbo. Kim Mulligan, North Carolina Bar Foundation. If you want to raise your hand, welcome. Alex Rogers, also the North Carolina Bar Foundation. And Sarah Dowd, also with the North Carolina Bar Foundation. Welcome. We have Liz Henderson. She is the Chief of Staff and General Counsel for Chief Justice Newby. Liz, where you go? All right. We know who runs the show. Right? All right. And then Louise Harris, the North Carolina Bar Foundation. All right. Again, everybody's special, but we were very happy to have you guys with us. At this time, I would like to recognize the most special guest, our Honorable Chief Justice Paul Newby, to come and give us some remarks. We're so happy to have you with us. Always.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Let me begin with a big thank you to the State Bar, Clayton and the Bar Association. Annually, we come together for a professionalism dinner to recognize individuals from across our state who are part of our profession that are doing the task about which they are passionate. And I don't know about y'all, but I was so inspired by our dinner on Wednesday night. We had Gordon and Leanne Brown recognized for their contributions in leading our profession, both with the Bar Association and the State Bar. Certainly providing examples of professionalism in their daily lives, but also in the way that they give back. We had Chief District Court Judge Pat Evans from Durham, who's so passionate about her community, so hurt every time there's one of these senseless murders, and the way that she, above and beyond her calling as a lawyer, as a judge, just gives to her community. And we had Burt Kemp, who is such an exemplar of professionalism in the courtroom and out of the courtroom. And I'm not just talking about the way he dresses always. He was honored not only on Wednesday night, but last night I had the opportunity to be at the criminal justice section of the Bar Association, where they also honored Burt with the Wade Smith Award for excellence in advocacy. So what a great week, and hopefully we're all not just encouraged with our profession and the way folks go about practicing law, but not just that, the way they go about contributing to their communities. But hopefully we're all challenged by that. Dig a little deeper, do a little more, have a greater vision for how we can help ensure that our courts are out there administering justice without favor, denial, delay. Speaking of that, the big news for us is that e-courts is actually going to be a reality. I know I've been talking about it pretty much for the last 2 years, and my predecessors probably before that. I want to put things a little bit in perspective. Imagine if you're a lawyer in the mid-1960s. You've been trained in law with code pleading. That's all you've done is code pleading. You're used to there just being one appellate court, but you also are used to the fact that there's a multitude of courts around. There's justices of the peace, and there are city courts and other aspects. And in one fell swoop, that's going to change. We're going to go to the rules of civil procedure. We're going to move to a unified court system. Sorry, Andy Griffith and Mayberry. We're not going to be Mayberry anymore. We're going to have district courts that are going to handle a lot of the other responsibilities of those prior courts and, of course, magistrates. And we're going to have this new Court of Appeals. And all that happened in a very short period of time. That's a actual huge change in things. Well, e-courts is not going to be that. E-courts is just a process, how we go about interacting with our courts. But we're going to go from this paper-intensive system to an electronic system. And it will impact access to justice. Well, how? Just recently, Judge Dunstan in Wake County as her brainchild opened up an information center in the Wake County Courthouse to serve the Wake County Courthouse and the Wake County Justice Center, where deputy assistant clerks, judges, other folks can send pro se litigants to this information center. Now, if you've never been to our 2 courthouse system in Wake County, try to figure out where you're supposed to be without anybody's help. It's not going to happen. And imagine if you're a pro se person. I mean, you have even less idea because everything is new about this experience. So you're able to go to an information center. There you will have individuals, and often we will have attorneys who are doing pro bono work that will be available, that you'll be able to go to that center and have access to what now is got in print. But on February the 13th, don't worry, it's not a Friday, on February the 13th, e-courts is going to be live. And that person will then be able to be guided to the right forms and file it, all in one action, right there at that information center. You're going to be able to access so much more information from your offices as opposed to having to go places to find things. And the idea is seamlessly from the first filing in a case all the way through the appeal at the North Carolina Supreme Court. It's all going to be in one place. When you go to put together your record on appeal, it's all going to be there. This will truly help us as we seek to administer justice without favor, denial, delay. And I got to tell you that in open courts, I mean, it's so vital that folks have this kind of access. And I got to tell you, the pilot districts could not be more responsive. They could not be more part of this rollout team with a positive attitude. The folks in Wake County, Harnett, Lee, and Johnston, they have worked with us and allowed us to use them as guinea pigs as we've tried to figure out what aspects of these various applications, what's working, what needs to be tweaked a little bit more. My pledge has always been we're not going to roll it out until we're ready. And we're ready. So February 13th, please everybody say a prayer. February 13th, we're going to be rolling that out. Wake, Harnett, Lee, Johnston. And let me say a word about my friends from Mecklenburg. They too have been locking arms with us as we move forward on this. We, the Administrative Office of the Court, Judge Heath, all the folks there are so encouraged by the way that Mecklenburg has embraced us moving in this direction. So as you have opportunities, if you're from any of those areas, represent any of those areas, thank our stakeholders, our senior residents, our Chief District Court judges, our clerks, our DAs, our public defenders, all the folks that are working together to ensure that when we do roll it out statewide, it will have as few issues as possible. As the DA here, Lauren Freeman, reminded me yesterday, she said, you know, whenever one of these new products is rolled out, the very first, there are a few hiccups. That's just the way that these things are. But very quickly, these things dissipate. With e-warrants, which was a new product that was rolled out within a week, the various issues that had been highlighted during that first week were resolved, and we were moving, I would say, rather seamlessly. So be encouraged. Yes, we are going to march boldly into the 21st century with e-courts and e-filing. A word briefly about our professionalism commission. First, we again thank you for your partnership as we all seek to improve our profession. As somebody mentioned the other day, professionalism equals civility. How can we encourage that process? And in case y'all hadn't noticed, life is tough. For all of us, I don't care who you are, I don't care what circumstances you may have been born into or what your current circumstances may be, life is difficult. My approach with judicial standards and my approach with state bar disciplinary actions is let's be redemptive. Let's see if we can't help this person get through whatever their current challenges and circumstances may be. And along those lines, one of the resources that we have when an individual seems to be going through a hard time and either the state bar, professional or judicial standards, we hear about these things, our first line of defense or our first approach is to send out, it's been Mel Wright in the past, and Mel does an amazing job. He has been the original director of professionalism right from its inception. Took a short hiatus of retirement, which his wife quickly told him he didn't need to be retired. So anyway, fortunately he came back. But I also believe that all of us need to think about succession planning and what the next step may look like. And to that extent, my dear friend from the first day of law school, Jimbo Perry, to me is an exemplar of what a lawyer should be. He left a lot of opportunities here in Raleigh to go to his hometown of Kinston, where Jimbo is well known throughout the community. He goes into the public schools on a daily basis. He mentors these young men and women that are less fortunate. He sees his work as a calling. And as a criminal defense attorney, if you're just trying to count victories, sometimes those don't add up very quickly. But the victory is the way you're able to speak truth into lives and hopefully impact some positive changes. And that's what Jimbo represents. And I wanted Jimbo to come and talk. The model will be for the first 6 months, Jimbo and Mel will be inseparable. They will be throughout the state. But after that, Mel's going to handle generally the western part of the state. Jimbo will handle the eastern part of the state. And he's got several initiatives that he's already begun working on. He hit the ground running. So, Jimbo, if you'd like to come up at this point, just say a word or two about the initiatives that we have going forward.
Chief Justice and President, it's a privilege to stand before you all. I've had a great 42 years, as we say in Kinston, representing little people with little problems. But there's no such thing as a little person or a little problem, is there? And so I'm excited about a new season of getting to walk beside the Chief Justice and Nels to try to help with some initiatives that they have been putting together that are really the same initiatives that you all have and have been working on, which have to do with things like mentoring and legal deserts and those things. And I'm looking forward to being a part of that. One of my first assignments has been to try to begin to contact you all to get input from you all as to who would be a good point person in your district who will be on a standing committee for professionalism in your district. So when issues come up, when we think about the great things that y'all are doing in your districts and how the districts might be struggling, we'll be able to help share good information. So I'm looking forward to getting to know each of you. A lot of you have gotten emails from me. I think connected with 14 out of it's not 43, it's 42. I could never find District 19 where it was, but I don't think it's there anymore from what I've been told. But looking forward to being a part and being on your team to try to help us accomplish what we want to do, which is to really have our profession be all it's called to be today, but to leave it for the next generation. So thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Jimbo, we may be calling on you. Our issues committee is looking at succession planning, so you may be getting a call from our immediate past president, Mr. Jordan here. We've had another guest, I believe, to join us, Jason Hensley from the Bar Association. Welcome. Glad you can be here. At this time, if you would, Clayton Morgan, with the president of the North Carolina Bar Association, would like to make a few remarks. Good morning, Clayton.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here this morning to give you an update on what's going on with the Bar Association and Bar Foundation very quickly. Four matters. The first concerns a packet that you each have in front of you this morning, NC free legal answers. If you wouldn't mind, take a look at that at your leisure, because we want to expand that program. It's an ADA program that the Bar Foundation hosts on its website. And it's for low-income people, it's a pro bono program, and we need more attorney volunteers throughout the entire state. The participants in the program have to meet federal threshold guidelines, and it's for non-criminal cases only, so it's civil. Last year we had about 600 attorneys who were signed up, and they answered about 2,000 questions. Lots of questions. It's very easy to sign up. It takes like 3 minutes. And what you can do is you can even go in and designate the type of case that you want to receive when you get an email alert. You go in, you look at it, decide if you want it or not. Whoever has submitted the question, they have uploaded whatever information that they deem necessary for you to answer the question. If you look at it and decide you can, then you can answer right then, and you can hit a button that says, I'll do it later. It takes it out of the queue, and no one else can do it. If you look at it and say, it's not quite what I thought it was, so I don't want it, you can reject it. It goes back into the queue for somebody else to take a look at it and answer it later. So we need more help. It's a great program, as you know, and it accesses the talent in this room and around our state that the participants really need, because this is one of their only opportunities to get in front of the lawyer, so to speak, and get some key questions answered. So thank you for everything you can do to help us out on that front. Number two, I had previously updated this body about the Open Door Fellowship. It's one of the first opportunities, the first opportunity that's come out of our DE&I Justice Fund that was approved last year by our board. We have taken that on full steam ahead. We have an Open Door Selection Committee that was formed. I've gone to 3 of the 6 law schools to talk about this with students. As a reminder, this is for underrepresented and socioeconomically disadvantaged students, first-year law students. We have 2 fellowships that will be offered in the spring. $10,000 over 10 weeks. What makes this fellowship different is that we're going to have an experiential piece behind it. We're going to make sure that we introduce these 2 fellows to the business of the Bar Association. They're going to be a guest at our annual meeting. They're going to participate in programming with 4 very key committees that are designed for D&I. Minorities in the Professional Committee, Women in the Professional Committee, our Sexual Orientation Gender Identity Committee, and our WILD. 4 behemoth machines are going to take these 2 fellows into their fold and make sure that they understand what those 4 organizations do, and also the whole Bar Association as a whole.
The goal of the Open Door Fellowship is to open doors for at least 2 people this year, so they can see what it means to practice in the state and how it's done, and to get a pathway forward for their individual careers, and get connections and relationships, because a lot of first-generation law students don't have that. So stay tuned for more about that. Hopefully I have 2 names for you, as we're going to select them after March 1st. That's when the deadline is for application, and hopefully I can tell you who they are. 5 employers, RTP only for this pilot year. Corporations, mid-sized firms, and governmental entities will be the employers. Third thing, we have a save the date, if you don't mind, March 3rd, 2023, for all. That's the Ask a Lawyer statewide campaign that we do, basically. We're going to have opportunities for in-person again, if you so choose, in the major cities, Raleigh, Greenville, Fayetteville, Wilmington. But you can always do it at your desktop, at home, in your office, through the Telltale software app. It's perfect. And we found that works a lot for people if they're on the go. The public is looking for us to step up again. Last year, 7,400 calls were answered, 51 law students and paralegals volunteered to accompany about 350 attorneys. So we need more attorney volunteers again, because we have a lot of questions. And the beauty of the software is you can go in and designate what type of case you want to receive, so you don't get a random question out of your expertise. If you go in the in-person sites, obviously it's whatever you pick up the phone, you'll get it. And that's also fun, as we've all done over other decades as well. One more item, annual meeting, save the date. June 22nd, we'll have the reception. June 23rd, we're going to have our business of bar, and the location is going to be Wilmington. We're headed back to Wilmington. Big significance about the location this year. This marks, 2023, marks the 120th anniversary of the 1898 Wilmington Coup. And we talked about before, in our presentations before this body, about the significance of that vis-a-vis the North Carolina Bar Association. Founders, some of the founders. There's a causal connection there. As you all know, that coup marked the end of the white supremacy campaign in 1898 and ushered in Jim Crow and segregation. So to commemorate that and to connect the two, we thought it'd be fitting to have a diversity, equity, inclusion CLE program around that. I think our members will appreciate it, and the location is very symbolic. So unless there are questions, I think I've taken enough time. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. Also, thank you for hosting our joint meeting on professionalism this week. That was a really nice occasion. I'm going to take this opportunity because I feel like a proud mother. Gordon and Bert, two of our own, received that award. And I think Bert may not be here. I think he's actually heading out for a vacation, so he's not here. But gosh, that was a special night. And you guys, you're just what lawyers, what we want to be like. We want to be like you guys. And thank you. So this time I would recognize Deputy Counsel Jennifer Porter, morning Jennifer, to present a tender of surrender of license.
Good morning. In your materials you have the affidavit of surrender of Stuart Egerton. Yes.
I'm going to recuse on that and step out.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Julie? It's Julie Bell for the record. The Honorable Julie Bell.
So again, in your materials you have the affidavit of surrender of Mr. Egerton, who, while serving as the executor of his mother's estate, embezzled funds from the estate. The affidavit is in order, complies with the rules, and so it is the recommendation of the Office of Counsel that you accept that surrender and enter an order disbarring him and taxing him with the applicable costs and fees. Are there any questions?
Okay, at this time, we need a motion to accept the surrender and enter an order of disbarment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So this time I recognize Deputy Counsel Patrick Murphy to present a tender of surrender of license. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning.
Pat.
Thank you. You have in your packet the affidavit tendering the surrender of David Germanis. Mr. Germanis was licensed in August of '99, practiced in Martin County. He misappropriated entrusted funds in excess of $4,000, and he altered some court documents. It's a recommendation of the Office of Counsel that the affidavit of surrender be accepted and he be disbarred. Examine the affidavit of surrender and it appears to be in order. Any questions?
Okay, if not, we need a motion to accept the surrender and enter an order of disbarment. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving right along. So here you are. We are now going to hear from Mary Irvine as she gives us a report on the IOLTA board. Welcome.
Good morning, thank you.
She's also got pictures of her cute little baby with a ton of hair, if anybody wants to see.
That is in fact why I was a little quite slow getting here this morning. We're still figuring
We all
out
understand
the two-kid household thing. So good morning, and thank you, President Armstrong, for the opportunity to share a little bit with you all this morning about the work that we do. My name is Mary Irvine. I'm the Executive Director of North Carolina Interest on Lawyers Trust Accounts, more commonly referred to as NC-IOLTA. I do want to kick off my report with sharing just a few historical program milestones that we have reached in this year, 2023, which is the 40th anniversary of the creation of the IOLTA program. The program was created in collaboration between the State Bar and the Supreme Court in 1983, and really still operates with the same purpose that brought the profession together back then to create this program, to provide access to justice by funding high-quality civil legal assistance for those who otherwise would go without the support of an advocate. So since 1983, North Carolina IOLTA has awarded more than $110 million in grants for civil legal services and other administration of justice efforts across the state. Income from IOLTA accounts during that period of time exceeds $107 million. We also do administer some state funds on behalf of the State Bar that support legal aid, and those state funds administered, again, so long as the program has been operating, are close to $58 million. So a lot of funds that we are able to do on behalf of the profession as part of this organization to support increased access to justice for those who really otherwise are left to navigate the system alone. I do have the great fortune of sharing good news today of our 2023 grant-making process. Those grants were just approved in December by our Board of Trustees. We have a 9-member board that's appointed by this council, mostly made up of attorneys representing various practice areas and working across the state with the goal of course, providing governance for the program as a whole, but in particular in December, their focus is really on reviewing the grants that come in and thinking about the best impact that we can make with the funds that we have available to do it. There are, of course, challenges to that grant-making process. We do spend time talking to individuals and organizations who have great ideas, but they might not be working on a program that has to do with improving the justice system or providing direct services for free to those that need it. We also have to ask a lot of questions about sort of the viability of projects or financial sustainability of those organizations that apply. And we're at that grant-making meeting, really trying to facilitate good discussion and sometimes difficult deliberations to finalize grant awards out to these recipients. But this part, the part of sharing about those awards, of contacting recipient organizations, that's the good news that comes at the end. The board reviewed requests that exceeded $7.8 million this year, and the board approved grants of $6.1 million. Nearly $5 million of that is for direct legal services. So these are general civil legal services for individuals in all 100 counties. The board really makes sure that the funds are being pushed out in a way that truly has a statewide impact. And they're helping folks to stay in their homes, to get access to health care, to keep them safe from abuse. You can see more in the report specifically, but we also support volunteer lawyer programs, so the efforts to facilitate pro bono services by lawyers in communities across the state. And we also fund some projects that are broader administration of justice efforts, working to improve the system in some way. We actually did this year approve several new grants, including some administration of justice grants that were just approved by the Supreme Court. And I wanted to share with you about a few of those because you all hear about the civil legal aid grants, and I think you know that that's sort of the core focus. It's the majority of what IOLTA funds. But the board also has the opportunity from time to time when we see that there is a project that can use some funds and really can make a difference in the system to be able to spend those dollars in other ways. So one of those was a grant that was approved to Indigent Defense Services, and this is to support their recruitment and training goals. You all know, and I think there's committees that have been discussing the challenges of keeping really high quality public defenders in all counties across the state, particularly rural counties. So this grant will support those objectives of really trying to bolster the training that's available for those lawyers and to recruit lawyers in places where the list is a little bit thin. Another one of the funded grants that's new this year is in support of an effort coming out of the Chief Justice's Task Force on Adverse Childhood Experiences. So this is both research and training around adverse childhood experiences and working to better understand what is the impact of trauma that litigants before the court, juvenile and adult offenders, what is the impact of trauma in their lives on their experience in the court process, and what are ways that trauma-informed court practice can really support better outcomes. So those are just two new grants that we're glad to be able to support this year, and we think that with that funding, it will help those projects to kind of get off the ground. Really, above all, I want to emphasize that the IOLTA program, the IOLTA board couldn't do this work without the partnerships that we have with lawyers across the state who have their trust accounts and stay in compliance with the IOLTA rules related to trust accounts, with the banks who hold those accounts, and of course the nonprofit organizations that are providing these services to folks. Without support from programs like IOLTA, some of our grantee partners couldn't do the work that they do. You all have a story in your report about Monique, who was in school to pursue a new career, but she was worried that she wasn't going to be able to pursue that career due to programs that fund, namely in this case the Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy, that partners with schools in Charlotte to help identify individuals like her who are eligible for expunction. She was able to get her record expunged and able to pursue that career. She's a caretaker for parents as well as her child, and so it's a way to ensure that she's able to continue doing that and to be a support for her family. So this year, in our anniversary year, we do intend to try to share more of those stories and share more with you all really about the impacts that this work makes. Like I said, it's a partnership. If there's anything that we can do to help you or anyone in your district, or if you would like to connect us with an effort in your district that you think might be ripe for some partnership with IOLTA, we would be happy to connect with you. So,
Thank you so much, Mary. In fact, now that you asked, our Access to Justice Committee may be getting in touch with you to discuss some funding, maybe for some of the ideas that may be coming out of our committee. So we will be getting in touch with you. And thank you for all that you do and your board. I know you're a hardworking group, so thank you.
thanks.
All right. Next, our own Warren Savage is going to give us a report from LAP. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam President. Can't call you doctor yet.
Please don't.
That's a pending ethics. I am here on behalf of the LAP board and the LAP staff, and we had a great meeting yesterday, a very emotional meeting actually. Robin and the whole staff was there, and most all the board members were there for the first time personally. Most of them were there, and there were a couple online. But it was emotional because this past, I'm glad Marcy brought it up, earlier, this shooting that occurred in Goldsboro took one of our own, and I can tell you that it hit me very close to home. I knew many of the lawyers in that firm very, very well. And also, I didn't know Patrick as well. I had met him, but it's really just tore up that firm, and I think the local bar there. Mark can probably testify to that. So why did that come up at LAP? Well, LAP is trying to, we need to have some sort of idea of how to respond and to help folks that are facing something that happens like that. It's the first time something like that has happened while I'm at Lawyers Mutual, but it is not going to be the last. And so Robin and her team, Nikki, did some response immediately afterwards. Nikki went down there to try to help. But what quickly became apparent, and what we were talking about yesterday, was having some sort of protocol at which LAP is either playing a part, either playing the point, but whoever's playing the point, who are the interested parties that need to be involved, bar cares, obviously the local counselor from the district, that something like this happens. And Lawyers Mutual, I was very much on the phone quite a bit through the days after that with the folks at that firm. As you can imagine, all kinds of issues happened after that. So there's going to be, I know Marcy talked to them also, there's going to be an effort on our part to try to create some protocol, bring in the interested parties, or not so much the interested, the parties that we think that can help get their ideas, and I'm going to involve you, I guarantee you, because you are the leaders in your local bar. So be looking out for that. As on a brighter note, we've got a couple of conferences that are coming up that LAP is sponsoring, one being the incredibly popular and increasingly popular every year Minority Outreach Program that will be held here in Raleigh at the McKinley Center. I think I heard at the meeting yesterday there's already 300 people signed up for the program, and so you better get there quick if you want to be February 24th. There's also a Mid-Atlantic Women's Wellbeing Conference in Roanoke, Virginia in March that I think we started. Last year was the first time that we were a part of that. It was very valuable. We got a lot out of it, and in fact, we got a couple open cases out of it last year. And we're going to be participating in that, and you're also welcome to look for that. Last quarter, LAP staff and volunteers gave 19 CLE presentations, and LAP opened 31 new client files. Also, fortunately, closed some client files, so I think the client files stay around that many files open pretty much constantly. But so that's a lot of folks that we're helping right now. We currently have about 750 open cases. Of those, 323 are substance use, and over 500 involve psychological issues. That tells you just how broad the efforts of LAP are to help the lawyers and the people of North Carolina. I think I'll recuse myself later when there's a vote on who will be the next chair of the board, but on behalf of the board, I do want to tell you that we can't thank the staff, Robin, Nikki, and Kathy, and Dahlia, and Candace, and I mean, it's amazing how much they do for so many people with such a small staff. But a lot of it is because you guys can help too. So thank you very much. That's the report of the lab board.
Thank you, Warren. And we are very fortunate that we have this lab program and the staff, and they're so devoted to what they do. And thank you. We just thank you so much. Also, thank you for your presentation for our Lunch and Learn this week. As always, you did a great job, and we benefited from that. So thank you for that. All right. At this time, I would recognize Catherine Jean for her lengthy report. The Office of Counsel. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. You have in your materials 2 reports this time. The quarterly and annual reports of the Office of Counsel. Be happy to answer any questions. Okay, thank you.
You did not give me time. She's determined to always get the award for the quickest. All right, moving right along. If anybody needs to take a break, feel free to do so. I think we're going to keep going ahead if that's okay. It'd be kind of hard to herd everybody back in here if we take a break. So, but feel free, if you need to take a break at any time, feel free to do so. We're going to move right along. Committee reports. So the first order of business are the minutes from the Executive Committee and the Council minutes from the October 19th and October 21st meetings. And I am at this time asking for approval of those minutes. Do we need a motion? We don't need a motion. Do we need a motion? No. Motion to approve?
From the Executive Committee, it's recommendation of the Executive Committee.
It's a recommendation, no motion needed. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. At this time, I would recognize my wingman and president-elect, Todd Brown, to present the reports for Finance and Audit and the Advisory Appointments Committee. Todd.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, everybody. The Finance and Audit Committee met on Wednesday and completed its work, and the Executive Committee met yesterday and completed its work. And so, upon the recommendations of the Finance and Audit Committee, I now want to present to you some motions of the Executive Committee to this Council. You guys hear me?
It's on.
You can hear me? I'll talk over. The first motion is a motion of the Executive Committee to approve the fourth quarter financial statements. Those were in your materials on SharePoint. Yes, one at a time.
Okay, any questions? Any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next motion is one of the Executive Committee to approve the proposed 2023 budget, and that is as revised to increase the managed services expense by $50,000. You received that revised budget as well, and that is the motion.
Any questions? Okay. If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Executive Committee recommends the approval of the proposed 2023 budgets of the Client Security Fund Board of Trustees, the Board of Legal Specialization, the Board of CLE, the LAP Board, the IOLTA Board of Trustees and the Board of Paralegal Certification.
Okay, and obviously all these materials you've had access to and have, I'm sure, reviewed them before today. But if anybody has any questions at this time, please let us know. Otherwise, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We also move to approve the Board of Legal Specializations assessment of a $50 late fee against those specialists who fail to timely pay their annual dues. And the annual dues are $150. The late fee would be $50.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And from the supplemental agenda that you all received, you should note that the bill filing deadline for this session of the General Assembly occurs before the April quarterly meeting, when we meet again, and therefore we move, to give the State Bar officers the authority to instruct the legislative liaison hours to pursue the following amendments of Chapter 84 of the General Statutes, if deemed appropriate by the subcommittees appointed to study these issues. And these specific amendments would be to amend GS 8432.2 to include specific statutory authority to charge and collect fees related to a lawyer's participation in a disciplinary deferral program. The second one would be to amend GS 84-34 to create a statutory membership dues waiver for lawyers who are active duty members of the military and spouses of active duty members of the military. So that is the motion.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The Appointments Advisory Committee met on Wednesday also, and excuse me, upon the recommendations of the Appointments Advisory Committee, I present to you the following motions of the Executive Committee to the Council. The first is for the LAP Board, and we would move to appoint Takia Lewis Blaylock and William Ingraham to 3-year terms, and to reappoint Cleveland Croft III to a second 3-year term. That's the motion.
Madam President, I'd like to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Another motion relative to the LAP Board, and that would be a motion to approve Warren Savage to a 1-year term as chair and Crawford Cleveland to a 1-year term as vice chair.
You're recusing yourself, Warren. Thank you. All right. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next relates to the State Bar's Foundation Board, and we would move the appointment of past State Bar Presidents Robert Wicker and Barbara Christie to 4-year terms.
Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
For the NC Leaf Board, we would move the reappointment of William R. Purcell to a 1-year term and to appoint James R. Grant to a 1-year term.
Okay. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
For the DHC, we would move the appointment of DeWitt Mac McCauley to complete the term of Fred W. DeFore, who resigned from the board because he became a counselor. That term will end on June 30, 2023, so that's to fulfill the term that Fred resigned.
Okay. Again, any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And then the last item is from your supplemental agenda. and it relates to the North Carolina Board of Law Examiners, and that will be a motion to designate past board chair Kimberly Herrick as an emeritus member of the board.
Okay. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries.
That completes mine.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd. So, other business from the Executive Committee, there's a motion to adopt proposed rule amendments and transmit those to the Chief Justice and the Supreme Court for approval, and those are agenda items 4.1-4.4. One of those being the creation of the Access to Justice Committee as a standing committee. I know that you have those materials, you've reviewed those. Is there any discussion on any of those proposed amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There's also a motion coming from the Executive Committee to ratify the action of, my action of officers between the quarterly meetings relative to rule amendments to enable the Grievance Committee to proceed with grievance reviews as required by the new statute enacted by the General Assembly. We just wanted to make sure that we could do as we've been instructed by the General Assembly and not waste time. And so that's why the action was taken by the officers in between the meetings. So we actually need you to ratify our decisions. And is there any questions about that? Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There's a motion for publication of the complete proposed CLE rule amendments. That was agenda item 6.1 on the Executive Committee agenda. I know that a lot of you have heard about the new CLE rules. They were published previously. Some comments received, changes made to the proposed rules, now ready to be republished in full. And that is the motion before you today. And if anybody has any questions, please do not ask me. Please ask Peter, who's sitting right here. Are there any questions? It's this motion to publish. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Motion carries. So now we have other committee reports, and I will turn it over to Matt Smith, the chair of our Access to Justice Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. Access to Justice met earlier in the week in a very productive meeting. I compared it to drinking water from a fire hose with all the information that we were receiving. In short, we're looking at several avenues, but the one thing we're going to go ahead and tackle now is a subcommittee will be formed to look at the solution of unbundled legal services with regard to civil cases. As many of you know, of course, you get into a civil case, it's sometimes hard to get out. The rules, we're looking to help amend the general rules of practice with the help of the Chief Justice in making it a little bit more convenient, making it easier and maybe to get work done on a pro bono basis or a low bono basis for somebody who comes in and has just a specific need in court. We heard a lot about what's going on here in Wake County with their health center as well as Mecklenburg County, and we will be following up on that in coming meetings and probably some subcommittee meetings. But we are moving forward, and hopefully we'll have some proposals in the coming months. Happy to answer any questions, Madam President.
Questions?
Thank you.
It's exciting work. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Next, we'll hear from Rich Constanza for the Administrative Committee report. Good morning, Rich.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, folks. The Administrative Committee met on Wednesday, and we approved the transfer of 302 attorneys to inactive status, 12 upon meeting certain conditions by the April meeting. 6 were allowed non-proton status to December 2021. 1 lawyer was granted emeritus pro bono status. 38 lawyers were reinstated from inactive status, 10 upon satisfying certain requirements. 8 lawyers were reinstated from suspended status, 2 based on meeting certain requirements. 5 attorneys were granted, out-of-state attorneys were granted pro bono practice status, allowing them to practice under the supervision of a legal aid office. The State Bar received a request from the Military Spouse JD Network and the North Carolina Association of Women Attorneys to consider a rule amendment that would allow military spouses who are North Carolina attorneys to not have to pay State Bar dues or client security fund assessments. We voted to form a subcommittee to study the issue, both to, I guess, determine if such a waiver should be allowed, and if so, is this something that could be done by a rule amendment, or would there have to be some type of legislative enactment? So, if anyone wants to serve on the subcommittee, please contact me, or contact Peter. Now, there are 194 lawyers as of, I think, yesterday that are subject to suspension orders for failing to comply with either CLE requirements or bar dues. We're asking that the council authorize the issuance of suspension orders for these members. Counselors are encouraged to contact members in your district that may be delinquent, to give them a gentle reminder to bring themselves into compliance. It takes a lot of weight off of staff counsel. It also reduces the workload that the administrative committee has to do in the years following the suspension orders. Finally, we granted a petition filed by Mr. Zeb Barnhart Jr., who petitioned to relinquish his law license. Following that action, Mr. Barnhart contacted staff counsel and realized he simply wanted to retire. He didn't want to relinquish his status as an attorney. The distinction being you have a right to relinquish your status as an attorney. If you want to get it back, you have to take the bar exam again. So, Mr. Barnhart filed a petition seeking inactive status. The petition is in order. He meets the criteria. So I'm asking for a motion allowing Mr. Barnhart's petition for inactive status.
So moved.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any questions, comments?
Okay. Yeah. Any questions, comments, anything? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries.
All right, thank you, Mr. Barnhart. Thanks, you. And finally, I believe we need a motion authorizing the issuance of suspension orders. So,
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Question, Mr. Costanza, is there a time period within which you wish for us to make the calls to counselors in our district that may be delinquent?
yes, I believe you're going to be receiving an updated list within the next couple of days. So preferably next week.
I have a question too, because I just talked to one of my bar members earlier this morning who called in desperation. He has CLE outstanding. He's going to spend his entire weekend doing that. If he gets that done by Monday, is that?
I think he should be okay. As I understand that when the suspension order is served, the lawyer has 30 days from the date of service to bring themselves into compliance.
That's right, and we'll also, we won't be issuing the suspension orders right away next week. We want to have time for the counselors to reach out to the members in their district and get things cleared up, and if we can get those issues cleared up before we send the suspension orders, then we won't have to send that to that lawyer. And so-
Okay, I just wasn't sure since we were voting on it today.
Yeah, I think we have to get the authority to do it if they don't actually come into compliance in the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I've got him on the stick, so thank
All
you.
Yes, there are other questions. That is the news from the administrative committee. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Rich, appreciate it. All right, so now Takia, you're up. She is the vice chair of the Authorized Practice Committee. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. All right, so the minutes for the AP meeting are in your council materials. This week, the committee reviewed 15 complaints and inquiries for action. The committee issued letters of caution in 9 matters. It referred 1 matter to the disciplinary authority in another jurisdiction. The committee dismissed 4 matters. We took no action on 2 matters. Staff registered 5 prepaid legal plans during the quarter. Staff also registered 4 amendments to plans. And we have 2 action items for the council. The first is the committee recommends that the council issue an order revoking the registration of legalpreneur membership. And the committee also recommends that the council direct the secretary to issue a notice of show cause why the registration should not be revoked of East Carolina University Student Legal Services and Discount Legal Plan.
Okay, so I think we need a motion, is that right?
That's a motion from the committee.
So we already have a motion. Do we need a second? No second. Okay. Does anybody want to pull or discuss either of these 2 matters? And if not, we'll take both of those together as a vote. Any questions about either of these matters? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, moving right along. Anna, you're up next, chair of our communications committee. Good morning.
Good morning. I will be brief. Building on the good work of our prior chair, the Honorable Dorothy Hairston Mitchell, we are furthering our desire to meet our goal of helping decide what we want to communicate to the bar and the public and how to do that. And Peter and Brian are extremely helpful and basically are running the show on this. We're going to try to meet between quarterly meetings via Zoom to develop our message mapping, to get a unified and consistent information for our counselors to give to our members and those interested in our association, our council, and we'll be talking about hopefully ideas for a revamped website, which won't probably happen this year, but at least is getting started. And I welcome any ideas or thoughts or questions you may have.
Any questions of Anna? Thank you very much. All right, Kevin? No, sorry, ethics. Catherine, you didn't look like Kevin. Catherine. Good morning.
Good morning. Building or tying into communications, I want to mention that the ethics meeting was live streamed, and thanks to Peter tweeting out, we had a 5-fold increase in our viewership. We also, during the meeting, I'm sure got a completely unbiased thumbs up. Thanks, Mom. You will see that on pages 75 through 88 of your materials are 2 proposed ethics opinions that will be published. They are on the sale or closure of a law practice and proper handling of aged client files. And the second one is the imposition of confidentiality in settlement documents. So those will be published for comment. If you are in districts 1 or 31, you will be subject to random audits in the next quarter. We have no action items, and so that is the report of ethics.
You have no action items, is that what you said?
We do not.
All right, any questions? There was some robust discussion at the ethics committee meeting. That was really...
Well, and let me add, I think Mr. Savage had indicated that there was a pending issue regarding whether or not we could call ourselves doctor. We did resolve that. We declined that inquiry. So unless you're in an academic setting, you are not allowed to call yourself doctor. So.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Catherine. All righty. Here's Kevin. Good morning, Kevin. You can come forward and give us a report from grievance.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam President. The grievance committee met yesterday. We considered 174 items this quarter. In total, 133 files were dismissed. 1 file was dismissed and retained. 0 files were abated. 2 files were continued. 1 lawyer was referred to LAP. 5 lawyers were referred to the Trust Accounting Compliance Program. 3 lawyers received letters of caution. 9 lawyers received letters of warning. 4 lawyers received admonitions. 3 lawyers received reprimands. There were no censures issued, and 5 lawyers were referred to the DHC. And I want to thank the 3 new vice chairs. I thought we did really good and efficient work yesterday, having 3 brand new vice chairs of all 3 subcommittees. And so thanks everybody for the hard work. And the only other thing that I will mention is, as most of you know, some of the new counselors may not, we have this new legislative creature, these grievance review panels. And so we're in the process of staffing those and scheduling times for those to be heard. So our obligation at this point is to have we've got 6 in the queue, so we'll have 6 panel reviews prior to the next council meeting. We're shooting for February the 10th to do all of them, at least the first round, in person here at the Bar Center. So that's a report from the grievance committee.
Thank you, Kevin. I also want to thank Gordon, Andrea, and Walter for serving as vice chairs. It's a lot of work. We appreciate it very much. All right, so Darren, you're up.
I have become the chair of the Issues Committee, and we met yesterday for our first time as the Issues Committee, less the access to justice issues that come before the council. We were asked to consider 3 proposals with regards to issues that officers have talked with. Each of these 3 topics or issues were voted for to go to a subcommittee, so we're getting into the process of forming subcommittees. I'm going to just briefly tell you the topics that we're going to be studying over the next year. There was a proposal to study the random audit of trust accounts program. Essentially, how do districts get chosen, and more importantly, how do lawyers get chosen for random audits? So we're going to be looking at that to see if, one, is there a problem with the current policy and procedures that we're doing, and if we do find that there are some issues with that, then we're going to make proposals on how to better that and to alleviate some of those issues. The second issue that we are sending to a subcommittee is a proposed study of diversion programs. We already have a couple of diversion programs, although the Lawyers Assistance Program, I would consider that a diversion program. It's an asset to the grievance process. But there is the Trust Accounting Compliance Program that we have that's been utilized for the last several years. We are wanting to look to see if there are other diversion programs that we might be able to consider in the grievance process that might foreclose on us having to censor or give private or public discipline to an attorney. So we'll be taking a look at that. And then the final thing is the proposed study, you've already heard about this, of facilitating the preparation of succession plans. And that's essentially whether the state bar ought to, I guess, make a policy manual or pass some procedures on how attorneys can go about preparing for succession plans. And I think I talked with Evan Ross, who has been the longtime chair of PMBR, 4 years, 5 years, something like that. But we talked about whether or not that was something we could fit into a module for PMBR. So those are the 3 issues. If you do have anything that comes up in your practices that you think are things that maybe the Issues Committee should look at, please email Alice or myself those ideas, and then we'll take it to the officers to see if it's something we want to pursue. Thank you. That's our report.
Thank you, Darren. I want to thank Darren because historically the chair of the Issues Committee has been the vice president, and of course with Matt's work with the Access to Justice Committee, Darren stepped up and said that he would be the chair of Issues Committee, so typically the past president doesn't really do much. We actually put him to work. So thank you, Darren. All right, so we now have Kurt Warner, who's the vice chair of LAMP. Welcome. Good morning.
Thanks, Marcia. Well, my grandma's got some lean excuses on the Capitol trial, and so you're stuck with me for a second. Although, Alice, I promise I'll be done in less than half an hour that you've given me. We had a robust discussion yesterday as the LAMP committee. From the major commands, we had reports from 82nd, 18th Airborne Corps, and Camp Lejeune in the 2nd MEF. Their big issue is immigration. They've got a slurry of that between both the active duty members that are non-citizens and their spouses, which is a thorny issue. So we're trying to get attorneys involved in those legal assistance offices for both CLE and actually providing input and counseling to the military and their family members. We also had reported on our CLE, which is the one area that the North Carolina Bar Association Military and Veterans Law Section and LAMP really merged together nicely. There's 2 CLEs that were provided in the fall at UNC Law School by the LAMP Committee, a great success, and that includes instruction not just in uniformed services folks, but in the practitioners in that arena. In addition, the MBLS, of course, the next 2 weeks later had more of a veterans program for veterans' disabilities. So hand in glove, left and right, have worked together between both the State Bar and the North Carolina Bar Association, particularly in this arena. And then finally, we had a wonderful discussion about the new amendments to the Service Member Civil Relief Act, the SCRA, which was disguised as Congress can only do in an act entitled the Veterans Auto and Education Improvement Act of 2022, which has nothing to do with autos, education, or improvement. But the SCRA was a robust discussion about license portability in particular, and whatever lobbying efforts we have in the legal profession, we've done well. We are the only exception to license portability throughout the Universal Reciprocity Act that's coming out. I will tell you that it fits a little bit with the military spouse initiative waiver request. We asked for volunteers, and of course on the LAMP committee, everyone volunteered, so the subcommittee could be 40 or 50 people if you don't watch it. So we did just grab 2 that will be part of that. The one thing about license portability, it affects 40% of the military spouses in particular. We'll see that coming, and there's about almost 200 different licensures that all having reciprocity throughout the country that are not part of interstate compacts, and the only exception was the legal profession. So that's what the LAMP was doing. We're doing practical things to help uniform 120,000 uniformed service persons in North Carolina to keep us the most military-friendly state. Subject to any questions you may have, that is the LAMP report.
Thank you, Kurt. Thank you so much. Any questions for Kurt? We appreciate you. Thank you. All right. Last but not least, Distinguished Service Award, Warren.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to take a point of privilege to point out an egregious omission from my earlier discussion about LAP board. I forgot to mention that Ted Edwards left as chair, and it was his last time on the board, and also Paul Nagy. Ted had some very emotional words, just to tell you, Evan can tell you about that. Ted felt so strongly about being on that board and all that it does. And I just wanted to make sure to recognize that, and be welcome to Kia. That's awesome. All right, with that said, I've got, before we go into open session, because so much happened last quarter, and I don't think talking about the presentations that we made last quarter. I don't think that's appropriate for closed session. Right, yes. So in the last quarter, the dams broke after COVID, and we had 5 presentations of awards that I'm not going to talk about all of them. Tom Ross received an award. It was presented in Chapel Hill. Barbara Christie and Judge Cobb were there and spoke and presented the award. Jimmy Nairn out of Johnston County was presented his award. Marcy Armstrong presented it. I had the privilege of being there too for that one. Andy Little from Chapel Hill received his award. Marcy again was there, I understand. And Alice Mine, yep, that's correct. By special request, if I recall, I think Andy said, please bring Alice. Charles Hardy received his award down at Pitt County at the Christmas party. And I was there, but it was presented by Matt Smith, his first official duty, I think, in his new role was to present that award to Charles, along with Scott Harder, the counselor who got that nomination together. And finally, Mike McIntyre, who I think was awarded the thing long before COVID, and it took forever to get his award ceremony scheduled. We finally got it scheduled, and Marcy again was there for us. I'm telling you, she earns her keep. All she's paid. And Joshua Malcolm was there too, who spoke on his behalf. So just wanted to say that. With that, at this time, do I need to move under both like we did in executive? Just okay. I'd like to move to go into closed session pursuant to statute 143-31. 318.11A2 to prevent the premature disclosure of an honorary degree, scholarship, prize, or award.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll wait for the room to
present these. I'd like to also remind everybody and do this in open sessions to thank Suzanne Lieber for everything she does for our committee. I know our committee members really love it. She really helps people get together their nominations and helps us do our job efficiently. We had only 30 minutes yesterday to do our thing, and we considered 4 people and a bunch of other things we did all at one time. It was quite a meeting. All right, with that said, I'd like to move, Your Honor, with the approval of the executive committee that the council approve the nominations of the lawyers, candidate A and candidate B, discussed in closed session for presentation of the John B. McMillan Distinguished Service Award, subject to our standard due diligence checks.
Okay, all right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Warren, thank you and your committee. I mean, it is a feel-good committee. All this sad things we have to deal with here, this is a great committee. And if you know of anyone in your communities that are deserving of this award, please encourage the lawyers in your communities to put forth that person. I can tell you that as officers, I was told this before I became an officer, it's one of the most enjoyable things that we get to do as an officer is to present these awards to these fine lawyers that we have across our state. So, all right, we're almost there. We do have a presentation that I think to make. So at the last meeting, remember it took about an hour for me to read the resolution for Darren. I don't know when the guy ever had a chance to eat or sleep as much as he has done over his career. Just wonderful things and all the time that he's given back. So we have for Darren this resolution. We're going to get an extra large frame this resolution in. I'm going to hold it. Darren, we present to you a frame resolution of appreciation for the doesn't want to say anything. Hey, we're almost there. Is there a motion that we like go back to 8 o'clock meetings? Is anybody interested in that? Oh, I think so. No, thanks again, everybody, and I mean this with all sincerity. Safe travels and be safe, and we'll see you guys back in April. Is there a motion to adjourn? All right, we're done. Thank you.